Thank you so much for joining us today. We are recording our session today, so we ask that everyone to turn off their cameras and mute themselves during the presentation. I will be monitoring the chat, so you can share your questions there, and I'll share them with our presenters. Mark Broughton is running tech for us today. Thank you, Mark. I will record this I will share this recording with you all via email probably Friday. If you are uncomfortable with your name showing, you can change your name to anonymous and then private message Mark with your name so we can check your attendance. We'll go ahead and do our land acknowledgement. Texas Children in Nature Network is headquartered in Austin, and as such is on the ancestral and unceded land of the Tonkawa, Comanche, and Sauna people. Our ongoing colonial presence on indigenous lands compels us to take action now to counteract the effects of colonization. The work we do through the Texas Children in Nature Network is one small step towards that effort. I'll put a couple links in the chat about land acknowledgements and about those people groups. I'd like to welcome our speaker today, is Melissa Felty. She is the Conservation Education Manager with Texas Parks and Wildlife Department, and she's going to be sharing about the work Texas Parks and Wildlife has been doing with several of our other partners on plants in children's natural areas. Welcome, Melissa, and happy that you could join us today.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Do you want me to start presenting? Yep, you turned the camera off. All right, so let me share my screen. We just practiced this, so it should be good. All right, just in the chat, if everybody can see, if you can say you see my note section or PowerPoint presentation, or Sarah, if you can let me know what you're seeing. I'm assuming that the PowerPoint is good.
Seeing your PowerPoint.
Disappoint. All right, excellent. Okay, so thank you, everybody. So what we're going to be learning about here today is how plants and children can grow healthy together. And of course, it's not going to go. Let me see. There we go. All right. So with a little program overview, what we're going to be learning about is how plants offer the experiences and discoveries for playing and learning. And what we're going to do is we're going to first review the 12 best practices of what makes an outdoor learning environment. You may hear me say OLE or OLEs, and so that just means outdoor learning environments. And so it helps support the child development, food awareness, and then also nature play. And I'm going to briefly discuss some benefits to children and how they're positively impacted through daily contact with nature. So first what I'm going to do is I'm going to review the 12 best practices. And so with these 12 best practices, it comes from the National Learning Institute, and that's out of North Carolina State University. Texas with the OLE Texas, which I'm going to talk about in just a little bit. Texas Tech University also, and I have a link to that, they have best practices as well, and they're following these same guidelines. So these are the 12. The first one is 10 or more player learning settings. So 10 or more of these 12 best practices. There's a looping, curving primary pathway. And so that the main thing is a lot of people have pathways just go there and back. And so a really important factor is that it is looping, or if it's curvy as well too, not just a straight line. Shade structures in addition to trees, especially here in Texas, it is really important to have shade structures so they can be outside in the middle of the day for more than just sometimes that 5 minutes of heating up. A vegetable garden, and I know at TPWD, that's why we have really good partners with OLE Texas, because we have those that I'll be talking about native plants, but there's also vegetable gardening and the connection with the vegetables in their food. Outdoor classroom, program-based and storage available. So it's really helpful for the educators slash teachers to be able to have their supplies outside and readily available, so they don't have to go back and forth, send an aid inside or anything like that. Gross motor skills supported by all of these best practices and all the outdoor learning environments. So in order for them to run, that's a main indicator. Oh, the mouse isn't working. 1 second. Okay. The other thing is to have different types of toys. So wheeled toys, portable play equipment, music equipment. And it has to be accessible for the children to be able to play as well too. A grassy area and for games activities for 25 or more. Now, some of these are difficult if your child care facility or even an agency, a nature center that may not have capacity for 25. We're just looking for some kind of grassy area that's open for free open play. Sufficient trees that have edible fruits and vegetables as well too, with the shrubs. And then a variety of natural loose materials, so loose parts. That could be tree cookies, that could be plant materials. If that's what we're going to be talking about today, we're going to go through a bunch of plants to talk about what those loose parts are. So I'm just going to roll through this really quick. So there's a lot of words possibly on here for some people, and so this is just so you can have to refer back to later. And so the physical health benefits is physical activity play. And the main important thing is motivating the free play and hands-on learning. Improving nutrition, so that's the connection to their fruits and vegetables and their food. Having them know where their food comes from and having the fruits and vegetables growing so they can eat more of those right off the plants, the vines from their garden. Improves eyesight, and I'm going to say in the last slide, it has all the references, so the authors on where I got these from. This is not just my opinion. These are all research-based statements, and all the authors and their research is on the last slide for you to reference later if you wanted to go back and look into some of these benefits. And then reduces risk of asthma and other allergies. So playing in the dirt, get out in the dirt, get your hands dirty. There's those microbes that are in there. So if, it shows that if the children are playing in the dirt, getting those microbes in there as adults, they have reduced asthma and allergies. Social emotional benefits, improves the social relations. So regular, free, unstructured play, that's really, really important. Improves self-discipline, reduces stress. I know we can't see everybody, but just raise your hand if you've had high blood pressure and you've had a bad day at work or a bad day at home and you just go outside. If you go outside, what happens? I know it happens to me. My stress just reduces greatly. So it happens with kids as well. Impacts positive behavior and increases cooperation. So it shows that they play better together. Cognitive benefits, it supports creativity and problem solving, enhances their abilities, especially to focus, improves academic performance, and especially in social studies, science, language, arts, and math, and it reduces the ADD symptoms as well. And then we have conservation benefits. So I know that I was outdoors with my grandpa all the time as a kid, and here I am working with Texas Parks and Wildlife. So childhood participation supports pro-environment attitudes and behaviors in adulthood. And then the second one is protection behavior. So that's stewardship. I still love to go and volunteer and do litter pickup when I'm around. If I see litter and it's safe to pick up, I safe to pick that up. And I bring that all back to my grandpa taking me out into the woods and on hikes and fishing and things like that. And trees are very important. Yeah, Victoria, I'll go back to the cognitive slide in just a moment. The trees are very important for protecting children from radiation. And so vegetation, the trees, it helps you stay outside longer, and that has to do with the structure, the shade structures as well too, which is one of the best practices. So this is, Sarah's going to be sharing, I believe, my PowerPoint for just because of timing. Just because of timing, I'm going to just continue on. I just wanted to flash back just if you need to see something really quick. So I'm going to be showing you a bunch of plants and why these plants. There is a team of us from Texas Parks and Wildlife, which is myself, the Department of Agriculture, TNLA, which is the Texas Nursery and Landscaping Association, and Michelle with the Lady Bird Johnson Wildflower Center. So we were the plant committee with Ole, Texas. And so we selected these plants based off of many different criteria. One of them is sensory. So the plants have to provide some kind of texture, smell, scent, sound, anything. So sensory is number one. Interaction and movement. Their interaction, they can play with the plants. They can hide under the plants. They can hide with the plants. And then also movement. Movement is if it's a grass that moves, if it's flights of birds, butterflies that interact with the plant as well. Then there's building materials. So that's the loose part that I was talking about as it's one of the 12 best practices. The building materials that you can clip them and it's not going to die off. That they can be stompled by children and the root system. And that's why we support natives because natives have a lot longer, deeper root system that even if within burns, that's the whole point of prescribed burns, is that it's the root system. Generally 2/3 of the plant is the root. And so that's the building materials that they can explore, they can journal, they can relax, they can color in, anything like that. And then easy care, that's low maintenance and low water requirements. And then durability. Durability, are they cold, hot, deer resistant? Can they be planted in a container? So those are varieties that are, characteristics that we looked for. We also looked at seasonal plants. So one of them is redbud. Redbud isn't beautiful in the springtime, and then we have an oak. We have some grasses that turn really beautiful in the fall time. And so that's different seasons as well. But one of the main reasons why they are on a child-friendly plant list is because we went and we researched extensively to make sure that they are not poisonous. And when we say not poisonous, that means a low toxicity. So below a toxicity that generally will not harm anybody. These are references that we used to make sure that these are non-poisonous. So they are child-friendly. And a lot of other plants offer some of those characteristics that we talked about, but in order to be child-friendly, because with Ole Texas, it's based on a 0 to 5-year-old. So are they going to put it in their mouth? Are they going to eat them? Are they going to get it on their skin and will it cause a rash? So it has to be non-poisonous. That blanket statement is just to let you know that is what is on the bottom of the child-friendly flyer that I'll be showing you in a little bit. Just because we have to have a blanket statement, even though the plant is on a non-poisonous reference, we have checked these out. Everybody has sensitivities and allergies. So we can't guarantee that there is not going to be an illness and an injury because everybody has possibly a different sensitivity to plants. So through this, the child-friendly plant, we designed a plant tag. And so the TNLA, they have a Best of Texas and they have a plant database. We developed that purple handprint, which designates it as a child-friendly. So there's a way that you can select child-friendly. We are currently working with TNLA because we are noticing that they're adding some plants to that are definitely highly toxic, and they're labeling them as child-friendly. So please do your due diligence and find out for yourself, for your children, to make sure you plant these plants. And just for example, they have the bluebonnet listed as child-friendly, and that is a known highly toxic plant. So we are working with TNLA, but it's a plant tag that we developed, and it's a great partnership. There is also the Playcore. Playcore has a plant database, and at the end, I do have websites for all these references all put together too. But if you want, just take a picture of that. But it is, like Sarah said, she will be putting out slides for the slide deck as well too. And so I just want to talk about Ole Texas. It is a huge initiative through Texas Department of State Health Services in partnership with other state agencies, universities, organizations all across Texas. And so if you wanted to learn more about Ole, and so it's just Ole Texas, you can visit the website there down below, and it's referenced later on as well too. So this is, don't worry about not reading it. This is just screenshots that I put on here so you can see what it looks like. So I developed this TPWD child-friendly native plants of Texas because we identified a lot more plants that can be used. So cabbage is really good for landscaping. It looks pretty, but it's not native. So if it comes from TPWD, we want it to be native plants. We want to suggest native plants just because the insects, the pollinators, the birds, the soils, that's what will help grow. And we selected a lot of perennials as well too that will come back. So it reduces the cost, the long-term cost for them. And so that is found, there's the website on our website, but that is referenced later as well too. So what we're going to do is this, I don't want you guys just to hear me talking. So this is where I'm going to be showcasing some of those plants. And so what I want is you're not going to get the name of the plant. And so in the chat, I want anybody who knows the plant name to go ahead and put the plant name in there. And then I will give, every time I put up a slide, I will give the actual name. And so there's a couple names. Looks like Victoria got it close to being correct. So good job, Victoria. And so Mistflower. All right, so it's the Gregg's Mistflower. So the Gregg's Mistflower, and what you'll see is on the right-hand side where it starts with native, that is all the plant characteristics for planting. So how big it's going to get, the colors of the bloom, when it's going to be bloom, the exposure, and so and the hardiness zone. So if you want to plant that plant in your hardiness zone, and this is pulled straight from the TNLA website as well too. And so in the green, in the middle of all the plants, you're going to see the child-friendly characteristics. So for sensory with this one, there's a lot more, but there's something else that I want to talk about that's hiding in the other white spot. So, so a child-friendly characteristics, sensory, it's definitely, it can be touched. And with it's visual, it's really beautiful lavender to purplish blue flowers. The interaction and movement is most definitely butterflies. And so that's what we're going to talk about. If you want butterflies in your backyard, in your schoolyard, this is one definitely. And if you live in those hardiness zones, this is definitely the one to plant. So what's the difference between all four of these? They all look alike. The one that you're mainly going to get on your Gregg's Mistflower will be, does anybody know? Anybody want to guess? Yeah, good job. So you guys are getting it. Cool. The queen. So that's the one that is shown on the flower. So the difference between the queen, you'll see that there's the monarch in the upper left. The viceroy or viceroy, depending, some people say it differently. You'll see that it's got the black line in the hind wings, and I say it looks like a smile. So it's got that black sort of smile on its hind wings. Then there's the queen that's in the lower right-hand corner. It generally is lacking when the wings are open, it's lacking the black stripes. When it's closed, it has sort of the black lines have almost like a white halo on it. And it's got more white spots on the upper forewings when it's closed. And down in southern Texas, there is the soldier. So the soldier and the queen look almost exactly alike. The soldier, when their wing is closed, on their hind wing, just below the black with all the whites, it actually is almost like a ghostly kind of faded white. So those are a couple ways that you can tell the difference between monarch and all the other lookalikes. All right. So now how about this one? Does anybody know? And this is actually two species, but does anybody know what genus these flowers are? Good, it looks like Jack's got it. Yep. All right, cool. So yes, this is Coreopsis. And so, or some you can call it tick seed. So I put, there's both of them. The lower one is in my backyard, and that's the lance-leafed Coreopsis, which has stayed green all winter long. It did perfectly fine through both the freezes. The greens didn't even die off. So this is a really nice hardy plant. Kids can play in around it as well too. So the child-friendly characteristics, it is visual. They're strikingly beautiful yellow flowers. The interaction. So when it says pollinators, that is the blanket overterm for insects, beetles, butterflies, and hummingbirds. But we do like to call out specifically if hummingbirds and also butterflies like them. So included in there, you can see for butterflies. And this is something that we just talked about at our last Ole, Texas meeting, is planting these plants. There is sometimes going to be, you're inviting other animals. So a pollinator is a bee. So those bees you are attracting to a childcare center, to your backyard. So if you have some children with allergies, it's something that you just have to make sure that you're aware of with bee allergies, because you are attracting more bees and potentially wasps and hornets into your backyard. And the interaction really is play. They can hide, especially the lance leaf. It gets to be almost like 3 feet tall in my backyard, and it's almost like a bush-like, so it's pretty sweet. It is low maintenance once it's established, and it's going to say most of the natives, once your natives are established, and the established is 1 to 2 years, it's blooming, you generally won't have a problem. I lost my Gregg's Mistflower the first time, but I had just planted them probably about 6 months, so I would say it wasn't even established yet, so that's why I lost them in the freeze. Durability, very heat, very drought tolerant as well too. Right. So how about this one? This is a new one that we put on the list just to get some greens in there. And if you want to just say an overarching general, what type of plant it is. Yeah, so Justin got it. So it's a type of fern. It's a southern wood fern. And these wood ferns, especially the spores on the backside, it's really good for touch. And for older kids too, even though with Ole, it's ages 0 to 5. These are good for if you're working with your schools. Oh, thanks, Justin. He says one of the oldest species of plants on the planet. That's a tongue twister. Plants on the planet. And so these can be used in working with your if you have children, nieces, nephews, or grandkids. Making these outdoor classrooms at their schools. And so it doesn't need to be big. It can be a 10 by 10 patch just for them to go out into and study with nature, with math, and just to get outside as well too. Interaction play, they can hide under them. They can be used as like fairy gardens. Let the kids use their free play and unstructured play to let them decide what they want these plants to be used for. The one thing, this is one of the ones that is highlighted, it really is a partial shade to a shade plant. It can tolerate some sun, but it does go dormant in the dry conditions. So it's in sun, and if it gets dry soil, it goes dormant, or sometimes it may die off. All right, how about this one? Any guesses? Yeah, so the underside of the leaves is especially awesome for kids, the visual understanding of seed dispersal. So I'm not quite sure if you're talking about this one or the ferns, but the spores and the seed dispersal on the bottom of the ferns are pretty excellent. That is pretty awesome. Yes, the fern, cool. And it looks like Sandy and Jack got this. Yes, this is the purple coneflower. So the coneflower, this grows pretty much everywhere. It's a really good hardy plant. It's easy to identify. You can talk about different animals like the porcupine, hedgehog, echidna. You can talk about animals with the kids with the seed head. It is edible. So these are some of the things we do put in there. It does not, thank you, Christy, it does not grow well in pots. It definitely has long roots. I started mine in a pot and then planted it out. But for long term, thank you, Christy, it does not grow good in containers. So if anybody has any suggestions like that, if you see something like this, so this is where I had durability, heat, and containers. If you've had now or experience with some of these, and so Christy didn't have good experience with them growing in containers, please put that in the chat, and I will bring that back to our plant committee as well too. Oh, Marissa, I think I got your email. So regional plant list. Currently right now, we will not be doing regional plant lists, but we can help assist with that. So I know that was a suggestion made before. as this initiative is a statewide initiative, we try to select plants that are that can grow in a couple different regions or statewide. The other thing you can do is the Texas Native Landscaping Association, their database, you can select Texas regions, which is pretty sweet. But it is not just natives because they are nursery and landscaping. There is going to be a lot of ornamental, but you can go on their TNLA database, which I will have again the email for that later on in the reference or in the related links, that you can select your region and it will give you what grows in your region. Okay, so let's see, edible. So we do have edible as one of the characteristics, but the childcare facility and anybody who uses these plants just has to know that they are taking that risk for kids ingesting them. And so, but this is showing that it is safe for that. Pollinators and songbirds, I leave my coneflower seed heads up all winter, all spring, until I start to get really good regrowth of my leaves. And so the birds destroyed them in the springtime when we had that freeze. And so please, please, please do not cut seed heads down in the fall with your fall cleanings. Keep leaves over everything as well too. That helps save the root. So please keep those seed heads up for songbirds, especially to help them through the winters. Building materials, you can cut the flowers. The spiky seed heads are always fun to play with. You can use them for painting, so you dip them in painting, and then you can do some arts and crafts with them as well too. They are low maintenance, and it is easy to identify, and these are deer resistant. Some people said that there's no flower that's deer resistant, but more likely deer resistant. So how about this one? And you can say the general family or the general common name if you don't know the species to this one. Yeah, it's Liatris. And so this one here in Texas is the dotted blazing star. And the gay feather is what some people, it could be dotted gay feather as well too. Those are the great parts of common names is that they have more than just one. But learning the scientific name definitely will help you make sure that it's the species that you are planting. The other thing is try to make sure that you are purchasing these plants from somebody that's here in Texas. If you go to big box stores, you can find these, you can find coneflower, but they may have been in a nursery that was in Illinois. That's where I'm from. So, but some of these will not last if they did not grow up in the heat and the seasons here in Texas. So just be careful where you get your plants from. So some child-friendly characteristics, it's definitely visual and touch, in which most of them are going to be pollinators, butterflies, and wildlife. So the wildlife is, there's other species, so there's squirrels, other mammals that will definitely utilize the blazing stars as well too. And then building materials, the flowers and the stalks, these are really good and they last long if you cut them. So a lot of people are using them in flower arrangements. So when I first saw them, it was like, hey, that's pretty cool. Native plants are being used. But they're durable, but you just want to make sure with these is overgrazing. So they call it overgrazing, but overpicking as well too. So if you don't let this one maybe a little bit not tolerant of overpicking and overcutting the seed heads, or I'm sorry, the stalk. For maintenance, I just wanted to say, and I purposely chose that picture on the top. You can see some of them fall over. So sometimes people want to plant these right on the edge. You don't want to plant them on the edge. They need other things for structure to help them stay up. If you plant them on the edge and they fall over, like it's showing in that picture, that is a huge, huge trip hazard. So be careful whether it's at your house, in a school, in a child care center. Do not put them on the edge if they fall over because they most of the time will not break and it will definitely trip you. So just be aware of that. Can you please give me an example of building material? So the building materials, the stalks, you can use them after they use it as building forts. So you can use these. You can, some of the other ones for building materials, there's seed pods that they can use for musical instruments. So they can, once they're dried out, they can shake them for musical instruments. Let's see. So the, like the painting I talked about earlier with the coneflower tops, you can use that. Flowers for magic potions. Yes, yes, that is true as well. Some kids, if they're with the trees, with the sticks, we generally, but it's free play, it's unstructured play, but it has to still be safe as swords. And if they are magicians or anything like that. Great, thank you, Sarah, for adding in a couple of those on play. Thank you. All right, so who wants to guess on this plant? Okay. Good, so a couple of you have it already. So Turk's cap. This is where I was talking about you have to watch out for common names, because I'm from Illinois, Wisconsin area, and our Turk's cap is a lily. It's a beautiful orange lily that has its petals that wrap and it wraps around and it touches themselves. So Turk's cap, when I came down here, I'm like, that's not Turk's cap, that's not a lily. And so you just need to be wary of that. And so with Turk's cap, it is a visual. The flowers are stunning, and it is edible. Pollinators and hummingbirds. And so this one, it does have pods as well too. So the building materials can be pods and the flowers. So you can do, like I said, the paintings and the crafts with the flowers as well. Low maintenance when it's planted in the correct area. And so sometimes the correct area, but this one is a full sun to partial shade. I was surprised that TNLA put full sun because just, being fairly new to Texas, I've heard that this is more of a shade plant or a partial shade. And so I kept full sun because that's what they said, but I would probably recommend, if anybody else has recommendations, you can throw it in the chat too, but I would recommend more of a partial shade. Durability, very heat, drought, and picking as well too. And then it's easy to identify by those beautiful blooms. Hummingbirds prefer this one over my feeders. That's cool. Chrissy's dog eats the leaves. Full sun is okay. Part shade is great. Thanks, Kim. All right, awesome. And keep chatting to each other. Share those experiences in the chat. That's what the chat's for. That's what we're all here to learn about, not just from me, but from everybody else's experience as well too. All right, how about this one? It is a type of daisy. So this one is Blackfoot daisy. So the Blackfoot daisy, it's got a really great smell. It's a honey scented flower. So this is one that is pulling in the different scents that we haven't had before. So it's like a honey scented. Songbirds absolutely love the seeds as well too. Insects will be on these, and also butterflies. The stalks, it's low water use. It's very, very heat and drought tolerant. Those are very, very good. And the other thing, I believe this one is, yes, it's well-drained soil, including rocky limestone. So if you have a lot of stone in your backyard, rocky crevices as well, this is a good one. This is also, a lot of the plants that are native are pretty tall. They're generally sometimes about 2 feet tall. This one is a smaller one, and it forms really nice bushes, or not bushes, but bundles, I guess we'll say. And so this one is only, the height is about 6 to 10 inches. And so you want to plant the smaller ones along the edge, and then gradually go up in height for visual acuity. And then also, I read that these, if you clip some of them, it helps the growth of the plant as well too. So it will help it last longer into the fall if you cut some of the flowers, especially the ones that are starting to die off. It helps keep it longer. Yeah, so the Shasta daisies are a little bit taller as well too. So this is a small daisy. This is one that may be difficult to get your hands on though. That's the only thing that it will be with this one. It may be difficult. Yeah, thank you, Alice. That was the other one that we used too, is the wildflower.org. That's where I went and I pulled some of this information with, and Michelle, that's on our plant committee, is from the Lady Bird Johnson Wildflower Center. So the Lady Bird Johnson Wildflower Center, their website is www.wildflower.org, which I have that as the related link at the end. So how about this one? And this is two of the same genus, just different species. So you guys are putting some common names, horsemen or horsemen. All right, good. All right. So let's get the clarity on bee balm versus horsemen versus bergamot. So bee balm technically is a hybrid non-native. It is generally, bee balm is generally magenta to red color. But people call this bee balm as a common name. But the native version, the top one is going to be your lemon mint or horseman. And so those have the beautiful petals that come out, and they're almost like layered. The bottom one, and it has, both of these have wonderful smells to it. The bottom one is the native one that looks like bee balm, but it's a lavender color, and that's wild bergamot. It is still labeled, some people label it as bee balm, but truly bee balm is a hybrid, and it's a bright, bright magenta kind of red, and goes into the red. The true native bergamot, wild bergamot, is this lavender color. You can talk about it. Some people say 4th of July, talk about fireworks and things like that, look at these natural fireworks. And anybody want to say, because there's, for sensory, the first thing is shapes. Anybody want to tell me what their stem is? What shape? They want to guess? All mints have this shape stem. Yeah, thanks, Sarah. So they have square stems and justins, yes. And so that's something that you can talk about. If you have these planted, you can take the children outside and start talking about even shapes by letting them feel their plant as well too. Cool. Great, more resources going on in there, and they are edible. And if you crush the leaves, it's got a really good scent to them. Pollinators and butterflies, most definitely. These stalks are pretty hardy stalks. They are tough plants. And so to cold, heat, picking, and deer. The one thing with both of these, though, you'll see on the right-hand side, a little bit under the foliage is aromatic, could be aggressive due to spreading rhizomes. Both of these grow by rhizomes under the soil. I have a weed barrier, and then I have mulch, and that's actually my backyard too. You can see the mulch. These guys, my bergamot is spreading like the dickens this year. And so it is a rhizome that I have, if I move all the mulch, it is rhizoming on top of the weed barrier, and it is spreading and shooting its family members all over the place. Yeah, so just be careful with mint. But the good thing is if you have an area that you just want covered to let the kids go in there and smell the aroma, this is a great plant. It will grow and it will spread on you. So just let you know. And that's the difference between there's native, non-native, invasive, and aggressive. And so native, non-native, that's if they're native, they're originally from this area. Non-native, they are not. Then you have invasive, and then aggressive. And so invasive and aggressive, you can have an aggressive, invasive wild plant, which is this one, because it will invade into other areas. It is aggressive. So a little bit of those terms as well too. All right, how about this one? Anybody have a guess for this? There's a lot of these. Yeah, there's a lot of these in. Oh, you got Jack's got the species name as well in there, and good, common. So there's this one. It was listed as autumn sage, and so that's the common name. I have a Texas sage, I think, later on, but all the sages look pretty similar to each other. They all have a wonderful smell. Pollinators and hummingbirds. A really quick story. I was at HEB really late at night just last week. Was it last week or 2 weeks ago? Time's flying. And they closed the door and they're like, you got to go to the other side. And so I was like, great, I get to walk through the flower section in the front of the store. I walked through and there's this beautiful sphinx moth just absorbing all of the sage that was in front. So beautiful, beautiful pollinators and hummingbirds and moths as well too with the sages. They love them. Low maintenance once they're established as well too. This is one that I actually lost in the freeze the first year as well too, so it didn't make my freeze. And I didn't do anything. It was almost a test to see what was going to happen. Durability, heat, drought, and high traffic as well too. And this is one that's showing with high traffic. You can see that they get to be a little bushier, 2 to 3 feet. This is one for play, a really good interaction with play. Okay. So how about this one? Yeah, I agree, Kim. I try to keep the invasive plants are more towards non-native, but some people use invasive and aggressive interchangeably, but I 100% agree. Non-native, interchange it more with invasive, and then natives are more aggressive. Totally agree. Yeah, thanks, Sarah. So gold star. And this is a water-wise as well too. It has a really good smell, visual pollinators, hummingbirds, and they can hide under these once established and easy to identify. And so bumblebees love this one. Cool. Bumblebees are cute. All right. So I'm just gonna keep going just because for time's sake. Anybody have a guess on this one? Yeah. Excellent. So this is when we were talking about high movement, so the grass will move for them. So that is shown that having that movement, the kids get lost in it a little bit more and it's not just stagnant, it helps with play as well too. And it has the pods on the end of it, the oats. It's for hearing, so you can hear the wind through it, you can hear the rustling of the leaves and the seeds as well too. And so for building materials, you can take these out, you can use them for crafts, you can use them, glue them down. So I've seen some really cute images of scarecrows using these. And you can, they not rattle within the pod, but if you have a whole bunch of them, you can use them as music instruments as well too. But like Sarah mentioned in the chat, she's got some really good webinars on play. Oh, inland wood owl, it's common name, yeah. Good. And the durability, this is another one that's good for shade as well too. So we have a couple of shade, partial shade to shade plants in here, in case your backyard does have a full big tree that's already shading most of your yard most of the day. How about this one? They have a guess on this. Yeah. That purple, that beautiful purple gives it away. So the Gulf Muley, the bottom one is the purple that's in my backyard, and not that I wish I had that front. My backyard is that top one with some of those other plants in there. But this one as well, it's high movement. They can easily hide behind them. Building materials, the plumes. So you can cut those off. And I cut those this spring. I left them. I didn't know if the birds would eat any seeds or anything that were on them. But I just cut them earlier this spring, and they are stiff. You can use them for like pretending that they're a horse, wrap the ends and use it as a horse tail. The sky is really the limit with what the building materials are used for. Heat and drought sensitive, and once they're in bloom, once you have this beautiful purple, it's easy to identify. And this one's another grass. Grass weavings are fun too. Yeah, that's cool. You could definitely use those with these. They grow back really well. So this one is Mexican feather grass. Let's see, anything different about this one? This one is deer resistant as well too, and this one said that it was good for container gardening also. It's a little bit smaller, so it's about 18 inches, which is relatively small for some of these, so you can use them as rock gardens, accents, and borders. The other cool thing is under interactions and movements, you can use these. Some people use them as pathways or make a maze out of them. So you can see that they bunch really well. And so forming mazes with these, yeah, it's fun to play in too, most definitely. And so you can plant these and just have them hide them, and you can play that predator prey game where somebody yells out prey and the predator has to sneak forward, and they always have to try and stay hidden. It's really good with grasses. It's really fun. How about this one? And this is the little one of this one. There's a little and a big. Yeah, so this is the blue stem. So same thing, maze edging, you can use this as well too. This one gets a little bit taller, 18 to 24 inches. Songbirds absolutely love these. So you'll have the songbirds coming in naturally. The building materials for the stems and cold tolerance, drought, and then also high traffic. And so this is one that if you have an area that the kids are always cutting through, they can let them have fun cutting through an area. So if they're not following the sidewalk and you're getting that grass that's always worn down because they're cutting through an area, plant this, and it's something that's fun that they have to actually go through, and it can tolerate that high traffic that they're always stepping on it also. So now we're getting into the vine. We have one vine in here. Let me just check time. Yeah. Good, cross vine. So cross vine, which they look like they are little trumpets. And so the flowers are really beautiful, especially for hummingbirds. They love this. The building materials, so the spent vines, so when they're dried off, you can see in that top picture, they're a little bit dried on the bottom. High traffic area, and you can use it on trellises as a hedgerow. And so these are all great, and it's fast growing as well too. And in most areas, it's evergreen. So you're pretty much going to have green on it all year round. And this is another ground cover one. So besides the daisy, you can have this one. Oh, there's a question and answer session. So I will keep going a little bit faster then. The frog fruit. That's definitely frog fruit. This one I've actually picked from my lawn. This is a hardy plant, high traffic as well too. And it's growing in the lawn. And so I take it and I plant it. I tried the container. It kept dying in the container, but other sources said that it was really good in the container garden. I couldn't keep mine growing. I'm not sure if I maybe didn't water it, but this is very, very, very small. So you can see it's only 3 to 4 inches tall. So it truly is a ground cover. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through. We won't do guesses anymore. So I'm just going to go through and talk about. So this one's oh, got them. And if you want to try and beat me to the punch, you're more than welcome to beat me to the arrow to advance it. You're more than welcome to continue. So this is Beautyberry, songbirds, and playing around it. This one is, they called an open deciduous shrub. And so it's not that thick and chewy. It is more of a lighter plant. So there's not many sticks within the shrub. The shrub. Durability, it is partial shade. So it will do good in shade as well too, as well as sun. Oh, cool. So this one is red yucca. This is one of the yuccas that we felt we wanted a yucca in this list, and we felt it was one of the safest ones. A lot of the other ones are a little bit too spiky to be dangerous to be with children. So that's why this one was chosen. This one's hearing, especially this one I was talking about pods. There's wonderful pods that you can make for musical instruments as well too. Evergreen in the correct conditions, very, very drought tolerant and easy to identify, especially when it has its flower stalks up. And this is the one that came up as a common name for the other one. So Texas sage, pollinators, hummingbirds, especially with all sages, they have the smell. Oh, I forgot to remove non-poisonous. All of the ones, don't worry about that. It looks like I didn't edit this PowerPoint 100%. So don't worry about the interaction of non-poisonous, because all of these plants are considered a non-poisonous, low toxicity. And let's see, and deer resistant as well too. So now we're getting into the trees. Oh, and Jack pointed out, not a true sage. So you can see the scientific term or the scientific genus as well too. So thanks for pointing that out. Yeah, redbud. Excellent. So visual and for smell, especially in the springtime. So this is the one with the season right now. They're all around. Oh, and I will put, so you guys are saying the redbud is delicious. So I will put that in there. I'll make that note. So thanks for that. They can sit, hide under. So a lot of the trees, the play aspect is they can sit under it, they can play around it. The drupes, and so the drupes are the seed pods. And so, and I don't know if they're even called seed pods, but they're, the drupes are the pods that we get from that. So that's a building material that you can use as well too, and easy to identify. And the leaves are heart-shaped. So there goes for the visual by doing shapes as well too. Oh, I didn't put the name in. And this one, all wildlife love it. Absolutely yummy. I shouldn't say all. Most wildlife, especially opossums. Opossums and deer love this. So the Texas persimmon. Butterflies, it was identified that this is a host plant for those two specific butterflies, the gray hair streak and the Henry's elfin. This is the main host plant for those species. If you want the fruit though, you need to have a male and a female plant needed for it to fruit. So there is two distinct sexual dimorphisms between the plants. Heat and drought tolerant, and the one thing, if you have limestone or caliche soil, it's shown that these are good in those soil types. And this one is the Magnolia. The one thing I wanted to point out with Magnolia, if you're doing this, if you have one on your school and you have older children, really talk about the history of the Magnolia, because this is another one that has survived many eras, I guess you can say. It's a very, very old tree. And the adaptation is with beetles, because beetles love them, but that's why the leaves are waxy and thicker, and the flowers are thicker as well too. Larger songbirds and small owl nests. Cool. Yeah, so very good for wildlife. They like to eat their seeds as well. And it is moderately fast growing is what they said. And it's a hardwood too. The leaves are really good for especially tactile learning. And this is our last plant. So this one's the Bur Oak. The Bur Oak most definitely, and I normally put BURR, Christy, as well too. So it struggled for me to just have one R in this, but they asked that I put largest acorn. Yes, these are honkers. They're huge. So definitely acorns when the age gets to be when the tree gets to be the age of producing the acorns. The leaves are fairly large leaves as well too. You can use them for leaf rubbings, especially when they fall down. They last a pretty long time. Cold, drought, poor soil tolerant, resistant to air pollution. So I found that. So this is one, if you're in more of an inner city area or where there's traffic, it says it's resistant to air pollution, which was very unusual to read about. We did select edible plant list as well too. So these are some fruits and vegetables. Just because of timing, there's 6 minutes left, and if there's any questions, I'm just gonna go on. But we identified fruits and vegetables, some herbs, and some fruiting trees, because part of the 12 best practices is to have fruits and vegetable gardening. And we felt as a plant community, we wanted to try and select some that we knew of that were easier and lower toxicity that some of the other ones are. So even though we know there's tomatoes on there, there's other like nightshades that are in that family. that are not good at all. So just be wary, like I said before, with the toxicity and things like that. Justin, yes, I believe Sarah, maybe I sent her the PDF of this PowerPoint. So yes, when she sent that out, she maybe, oh, cool, awesome. All right, and so I'm just going to breeze through these really quick. These are plant-related links. So there's the Texas Native Landscape Texas Nursery and Landscaping Association, the Lady Bird Johnson Wildflower Center, our website, and other ones as well too. This is for outdoor learning environments. So for Ole, Texas, there is a website for Ole, Texas through Department of State Health Services, the Natural Learning Institute, Texas Tech also. And so there's, yay, there's Sarah's Texas Children in Nature Network is there too. I saw earlier about research. Sarah's site, even on the TPWD's website, we link all of our research to outdoor learning and the benefits of it straight to the Texas Children in Nature Network. So if they have a very, very amazing section on the research that has been done for children in the outdoors. And then this, I mentioned earlier, all the benefits, here are all the citations. So if you wanted to follow up later with the authors, you're more than welcome to follow up with the authors of all the statement. And I just wanted to point out, this is not just done by me. It is a partnership, a wonderful partnership of many agencies. So these are all the partners that were on the plant list committee or currently on the plant list committee as well too. My email address is down there. It's Melissa Felty is my name, and then it's conservationedu@tpw.texas.gov, and you don't have to capitalize Texas, it just automatically did that. So conservationedu@texas.gov. So I will stop sharing, and if there's any questions, I'm not sure if they have the ability to unmute, or you can throw them in the chat. Can you recommend a native, tall, slender tree bush? So I would say that crossvine is one of the ones that would, especially if you're trying to hide a brick wall, that crossvine that was mentioned, help promote stormwater capture, reduce heat island. And so the stormwater capture, they're specific. We don't have any rainwater plants that are identified in here because we tried to select ones that were actually low water for low maintenance. There is rainwaters. I think the city of Austin has Grow Green Guide that they have a really good one for stormwater capture. So you just want to make sure that you select plants that require wetter soil and deeper roots as well too for the stormwater capture. Let's see. My email is conservation. Oh, there we go. Thanks, Sarah. She's so good at the chat. Cool.
Oh, that's my main role here. Don't worry.
You're always great with the chat.
I will say, as we finish up, thank you everyone for joining us. I'm going to go ahead and put a link for an evaluation in the chat. So if you could take a couple minutes to fill that out for us, we would greatly appreciate that. And then our webinar next month is on green gentrification and equity in Texas cities. And so I'm going to go ahead and put the link for that in the chat as well. And it looks like maybe we have a question here. So we've got from Pamela, this is great. I might encourage Colorado Parks and Wildlife to use your model for our state if they don't already have something like this. Preschool and education in general doesn't seem to get funded as well. Pamela, I would say check out with National Wildlife Federation, the ECHOS team. They're based out of Colorado, and they have been a big help for us on this OLE project as well. And so they may have something out of their Colorado office that would be a great resource for you. And thank you so much, everyone. Melissa, thank you for your time today. It was great.